please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 230502.8. We're edging closer to the coronation, and I'm half tempted to take Big Lug's place and rule with an iron tentacle. Maybe I'll kill a swan. Or bring the guillotine to the 21st century and start with the fucking weebs. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a response video to two separate videos courtesy of Libs of TikTok, both concerning pronouns and teaching. Let's go with that. One being a teacher, I believe, and the other not. As this kind of crap has been going on for long enough and is still bleeding into all forms of academia, it seems only right we mock where mocking is necessary. So to the first video, why are teachers wearing pronoun pins to school which clearly confuse kids? Accompanying it is a 48-second clip. Replies underneath, what is it about the profession of public school teachers that attracts this type of lunatic? Reply, they fail to grow up as kids, so they can connect better with the emotional instability of children and adolescents. A reply of interest though, look into the Isle of Man. Recently had something happen in their schools. Accompanying it, an article. Sex education suspended after a drag queen says there are 73 genders. If memory serves, those 73 genders, that kind of conversation derived from Tumblr, with all the sexualities as well. You rolled the dice to see which one you were. Sadly, there wasn't a D73 at the time, so you had to use D20s, and a few D6s, D3s. Problem there is you'd never get number 1, 2 or 3 in fact. It was highly unlikely depending on how many dice you rolled. You had to cancel the first ones out or put them up higher, which meant getting more dice, which meant you couldn't get the first ones, and then you were in an endless cycle of not being able to get the gender or sexuality you felt you deserved. It's a game, everyone, and everyone's a loser. So to the first video.
I have a funny story to tell people. So, dog.
This might seem like a non-point, but should teachers be on social media when they're on the premises? Seems a bit, I don't know, wrong. Also, the code word of dog, what does that mean? Is that way of banishing people from a room because you're busy doing your clout thing?
So I'm a 7th grade biology teacher.
For those outside of the United States, grade 7 is aged 12 to 13. And since you operate within the field of science, this part's going to be fun, isn't it?
And I wear a little pin on my ID tag that says that she/they.
That says that she / whatever they? Okay. It's a very wide net you're casting. For the sake of it, I'm not here to judge whatever you choose to identify with. In a classroom though, those words are rarely ever going to come out unless someone is speaking about you. Because if they're going to talk to you, they need to know the title. Don't go, oi, she, oi, they. No, they're going to say, sir, Mr., Mrs., Miss, Ms., perhaps professor, doctor if you are that far along in your academic career. She/they don't really factor in a professional setting at all. If you can try and conjure up one that does, you are thinking too hard, and I have plenty within my audience who are that kind of person. Don't be that person. It is clutching at straws and looking for something that doesn't need to exist.
So they were being really disturbing and loud, so I shut that down.
You will respect my authority!
And one of my kids goes, yes sir.
Now see, this is where you've made a mistake. Not because they've called you sir, but because you only put pronouns on your badge. Well, the additional little bit you've added to it. Because you've added that additional label of confusion, you haven't put the title to which people should address you by. Although, if you wear an ID badge, it would ordinarily have a title on it somewhere, along with your full name, won't it? But if you made such a grand gesture, a virtuous one at that, to make your pronouns seem like they have to be front and center, it takes all attention off respecting you. People keep talking about respecting pronouns, they've been doing this for so long. It's not about respecting your pronouns, it's understanding when they're ever going to come up in civil conversation. The answer to that is always the same. They rarely do in conversation unless someone speaks of you, about you, around you. That brings up more questions rather than your pronouns. Like, for example, what have you done to incur their ire so much they have to speak about you? And if they're speaking about you, I can be pretty certain they're not going to use those pronouns either, because it is more than likely disrespectful anyway. And if they're speaking positively about you, chances are it's because you've been sucked off or you are sucking off the right person.
I go, excuse me? One of the kids is like, well, your pin says she, they. So...
I know you may feel that you have become a victim of a form of emotional damage, which there is a level of it you can certainly apply here. You have been emotionally damaged by a 13-year-old. Congratulations, they are quite good at being gobby pedantic shites. The onus, though, is still on you if it is so important they respect your pronouns to also have your respective pronoun-related titles. For she, Miss, Mrs, Ms. They, though, I don't know what the title is for they. Is it Miss They, Mrs They, Ms They, or does that not really apply at all? Do you have a completely different word for non-binary titles? Perhaps we'll just call you Greenhead Sam Smith, or your title is Teacher Them.
I just stood there like, well, I don't like that.
And within the space of 5 seconds, you lost all the respect from your class and possibly the authority, because by not being able to definitively shut them down to have a quick retort comeback, they have something now on you which humanized you, which means that control you earlier had when you shut them down for being too loud is gone, because you made something an issue that didn't need to be an issue. If you hadn't reacted to it, you would have had the control of the class. Some people can let that go and ignore it because then the children themselves are sat there thinking, oh, well, that didn't work, so what do I do now? Others pounce on it as if it is the biggest problem known to man. Because you pounced on it and were not prepared for it, for them to clap back, that is, they got you. For the sake of it, I would highly recommend an additional sticker you want to add to your ID badge that says, hello, my name is, my titles are, my pronouns are, my blood type is this, my allergies are the following, please respect all of the above. So to the second video, we go to a tweet first again from Libs of TikTok because they put out all the funniest stuff. LGBTQ+ activist teaches kids on TikTok about void self pronouns. Replies underneath, they always think they're so smart, lol, and institutionalize them, and this is why parents need to start getting active in local government races, and they should not teach kids at all. Final one. And we wonder why we're so behind in the world stage with our education. Who needs math when you can identify 78 different genders? Clown emoji.
Let's talk about void self pronouns.
Whereas in the past many thought that certain non-binary pronouns were BS, many have warmed up towards those, which is where others have then gone, right, I now need to create something because I want that feeling of confusion. This feels like that. I don't think for a second it can be considered remotely titillating to have something that others do not understand. It also does not make you unique. Much like when the emos and the scene kids were around and they were all telling me they're individual yet dressed identically. Right down to the fucking haircut. This is no exception.
Void self pronouns are neopronouns inspired by the word void.
Is this because you yourself are a write-off as a person, so you're null and void? Or is it because we have cast you into the void? Apparently someone's been playing too much Dungeons and Dragons. Or have you perhaps conflated the Phantom Zone with null and void? Is your self-esteem so low that you consider yourself to be valued as void, nothing, empty? Or are you an emo in disguise? That one's likely. Let's face it here, that one is very likely. Just remember, when you really want attention, it's down the street, not across the road.
And they can be used by anyone, regardless of gender identity or expression.
What a remarkably generous and inclusive way of going about it. My gender is boobs, and my pronouns are a honker.
They also may fall under the dehuman pronouns. And void pronouns were created in 2014.
Well, of course, there'd be pronouns that would account for people who do not believe themselves or consider themselves part of the human race. I assume that's to negate some level of responsibility for the messes you've made on this planet. Additional 2014, peak Tumblr time.
And they're used in the same way that they them pronouns are used. So you might say, I met void today.
you realise you could use a name instead, right? This matter-of-factly delivery is quite patronising. Additionally, if I'm going to say I met someone and their pronoun was void, I'd probably just call them barcode instead, or failed quality assessment. How about I call them tax write-off, lost cause, not worth the effort, actual, literal, sentient, cancerous ball ache, for short.
Or voy went to the shop if you are the individual who uses void pronouns.
I'm going to be a pedantic shit for a moment. Why would someone else be talking about what someone else did in the context of another person called voy, pronouns that is, as opposed to their name, because their name is so, well, it's so last year. Why use a name when you can use their pronouns instead? Why would you discuss what someone else has done with their day? If you're speaking about yourself in third person, there's a chance you could use those pronouns. But generally, if someone says to me, someone has gone to the shops, they're going to say she, he, they, we, it, z's, blah, 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 blah. I feel like I'm doing a Tasmanian devil wow thing, yeah? No, they're going to use the name because that's the quickest way of identifying a person. Within your social circles, if there's more than one person sharing the name, they may well say number 1, number 2, or use a last name instead. These names are very useful. Pronouns really don't feature or factor in as much as you might think they should, could, would, and do. It's only because you've elevated them to this status of pedestal-worthy first place must be the most respected thing ever that they get all the attention they get. But the reality is they're not really worthy of that much attention, are they? But you know, some people do need a battle, they need a fight, and they need to feel like their worth is front and center, and you are trying to educate the future to understand themselves better. However, since you've gone with the dehuman aspect, while simultaneously educating people on how to be more human, to treat each other with respect, does it not feel a little bit strange with those who don't want to be human as much? To expect and demand to be treated as such, yet not at the same time. It's not contradictory in the slightest.